Okay. Hello, dear ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our training session of refreshing teachers' pronunciation from ITTC Teacher Training Center located in Bournemouth. Today we have the head of training of ITTC, Chris, with us, who will first say a few words about their training center and their courses, and then we'll move on to the teacher training session. Chris?
Great, okay. Thanks, Anastasia. Are we sharing the screen okay? Can everybody see that?
Yes, yes,
good.
Everything's fine.
Great. Okay, and I'd just like to say hello to everybody, especially Natalia and Ina, who have got their webcams on. Thank you very much for being brave enough to participate. That's great. If anybody else feels like doing that a little bit later, that would be fantastic. Good. Okay, so I'll tell you a little bit about ITTC first, and then we'll have a look at a little example training session. Actually, if people are watching and they want to take part a little bit later, there's some apps on the phone that they might decide they want to download. These are all free, and we'll show you those and have a little play with those, some of those a little bit later. This is Wave Editor on Android, Wave Pad, which is on Android and on iOS, and another one called Say It. They're all free, but some of them you have to pay extra for later, but we'll explain all that as we go through. So let me tell you a little bit about ITTC. We'll keep this brief because I know it's not very interesting for lots of people. This is our centre in Bournemouth. We're very lucky. We've got a nice centre with a little garden and we're close to the beach. But ITTC, people might not know, we were founded in 1984. We've been running Cambridge Assessment English courses from the start. We were involved in helping them develop the courses. So we're an approved centre for CELTA, CELTA and Delta. And so all our tutors on the teacher refresher course that we're going to look at today, all the tutors on that are also CELTA and Cambridge approved tutors. So we've all got decades of experience as teachers, trainers, directors, examiners, and assessors. So on the online teacher refresher course, you're getting proper CELTA and Delta qualified teacher trainers. Just to let you know a bit about our CELTA courses, we from March last year, we were running them online. Last year in 2020, we had 50 online candidates. We were people from 19 countries, 100% pass rate. And also 100% would recommend the ITTC training course, which is good. Good. We're also going to look today at the online teacher refresher course. This is a modular course. It's designed for people teaching English from all over the world to come together and share our experiences. And we've got 8 modules and a very flexible timetable. We'll show you this at the end of the session as well. And so it's possible to take all 8 modules in 2 weeks or spread them out over 4 weeks, or just take 1 module or 2 modules, whichever ones you find interesting. Okay, so before we start the session, this is a little bit of feedback just from our teachers on the online teacher refresher course. Again, all of the ones last year and this year, 100% agreed we were high quality, well structured, motivating, helpful, inspiring, knowledgeable, with lots of good ideas. And that's the most important thing. And that's what we're going to try to do today, to give you some good ideas for your teaching. If you have any questions, we're going to do a question and answer session at the end. So if you'd like to hold on till then, or you can ask them in the chat box, or you could just ask me them and we'll try to answer. But we will have a question and answer session at the end if you want to wait. And so we thought we'd do something today with pronunciation. I thought we'd do something to help teachers and students cope with the stress. So we're going to have a look at some aspects of stress today. Hopefully we'll give you a couple of ideas. We'll also show you some free education technology tools, and we'll get you involved if you want to. So we thought we'd have a look at first at this word. Would anybody like to have a go at pronouncing this word for me? Ina, would you like to do that?
Yeah, pronunciation.
Oh, fantastic. Perfect. Right. Now, to do that perfectly, Ina has had to use some good stress within the word. Now, if we had a look at the sound wave for Ina's, it would be something like this. And we're going to have a look at some of these tools for helping students see the connection between the word, the stress, the unstress, and actually how it's coming out of their mouths. So we'll show you some of the tools that I've used to make this with. Also, some of these things within the word. What does this apostrophe mean? Anybody know?
Stress.
Stress. So
main stress.
Ah, good. Yes. Right. So let's good. So the apostrophe means the next part's the main stress, primary stress, and the comma means the next bit's the secondary stress. Da 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 da. Pronunciation. Da 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 da. Good. Now, to make the stress easy to hear, we also, in the syllables next to it, we want to use unstress. So we want to make sure that that's even weaker. So by contrast, the stress syllable is even stronger. So also we're going to have a look at some things with unstress. So it's not pro, it's pr. It's not C, it's si. So we'll have a look today as well at the unstressed elements that go next to the stressed elements that by contrast make them even bigger. Great. Now let's have a look at this. So we're going to do a few little activities and show you some websites as well. I'd like to have a look at this one first. Now, does anybody speak French? Strange on an English teaching course. So I have a word here that's in French, but we use it in English.
I speak French.
Oh, excellent. Anastasia, thank you.
Right, good.
Right, un petit peu. Ah, mais oui. So this, it might be the first time a movie is shown at the cinema, for example, or it's connected to the number one. Anastasia, how would you say this in French?
Première.
Première. Première. Fantastic. Now, this is going to come down. Now, in French, we've got more even syllable stress. There's not such strong stress and unstress. So when we hear this in French, it's going to come down here and it's going to land in this box where the syllables are equal weighting. Première, première. So that's a French word. But when we borrow a French word in English, we don't have this option available to us. Something gets in the way that blocks it. So we can't say première in English. So what we do is we hear it in one of two ways. And this is something interesting about British English and American English. So this is coming down. It can't go into this box. So in British English, we hear it like this. So this word, première, première. But interesting, in American English, they don't hear it like that. So it's coming down, it gets blocked from this container, but they hear it in a different way, and it's going to fall here. So in American English, this is actually premiere, premiere. So British English, premiere. American English, premiere. So I thought we'd show you one site here that's a very nice one for pronunciation called Youglish, and it's particularly good with British and American. I'm going to show you this. It uses YouTube. So we're going to have a look at Premiere. We're going to start with American English. Just want you to listen to this.
Adler Planetarium is America's first planetarium and a premier resource for inspiring the next generation of Adler Planetarium is America's first planetarium and a premier
Right, did you hear that? Premiere.
Adler Planetarium is America's first planetarium and a premier
Right, that's American English. We can go up here to the top and we're going to go to British English. And let's have a listen to how this...
Even the unoptimized versions of Premiere Pro and...
Oh, that's very fast. Let's listen again.
Even the unoptimized versions of Premiere Pro and...
Premiere Pro. Premiere Pro. Right, let's jump to another example.
I looked very good at the Devil Wears Prada premiere.
Let's listen to that again.
I looked very good at the Devil Wears Prada premiere.
Premiere. Good. So we can see on that we've got some of these French words and the difference in British and American pronunciation. So I'd like you to have a go at these words. Let's see if anybody's on there. Does anybody want to take part? Ah, Natalia, excellent. So Natalia, how would you say this word, do you think? This is the first time somebody does something. How might you say that, do you think, in British or American English?
It's a debut.
Right, good. So that's going to come down here. And in American English, that's going to be a debut. What about in British English? This is going to be a debut. A debut. Good.
I didn't realize I was pronouncing it American English.
No, yes, so good. So they're very similar, but we've got a slight difference, particularly in these loan words. Let's have a look at this one. Right. Somebody who parks your car, maybe in a big hotel or something, or somebody who cleans your car as well.
Yeah.
This might be, well, how do we think that might be pronounced in British English?
A valet.
Right. Now, because it's French, we're going to lose this final T sound. So good. So in British English, it's valet. Valet. What about in American English?
I think they pronounce T at the end.
Ah, possibly. But I've heard in American English as well, like this, valet. Valet parking. So one thing that we need to do with students is we've got to get them hearing things. It's really impossible to produce it yourself if you can't hear things. And that's one thing that we're going to help with. And one way to do it is to represent it like this with some visual support. And we're going to have a go at some of these now. I'd like to find out some other teachers' ideas about how you help your students with stress like this. So let's find it, see if we've got any teachers who want to offer a suggestion. Good, Ina. Good. How do you help your students with stress in a word?
I try to explain the syllables, and if I can compare it with the mother tongue, it sometimes helps to memorize how to pronounce correctly. And sometimes I draw some pictures like this, where the stressed syllable is maybe like dash, and unstressed is like dot.
Ah, like Morse code. Dash, dot. Yeah, nice. Yeah, good. Some people will underline them. Some people will write them in big, bold letters. Yeah, good. So let's have a look at some of these suggestions then. I think what we need to do is help them hear it first. So we can't expect them to produce it before they hear it. We need some kind of visual support. Ina's idea of dashes and dots is great. Good. Maybe stress boxes or stress bubbles, stress circles. We could also hum the stress pattern. Now this is useful because students don't focus on the sounds, they just focus on the stress pattern. So let's try that together. So this one. Right, would anybody like to try that? Everybody. Good. Now pronunciation. That's going to help students hear that pattern and focus on it. We could also beat, beat or clap. Da 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 da. Now I've picked up a tip from one of our teachers on the course with an elastic band, just a normal elastic band, and we can use that to represent the syllables. A small one is a short one like that, but a long one takes longer, and you have to stretch it further like this. So pronunciation. Pronunciation. And you can actually feel the tension in your hands, and it takes longer to do the stressed syllables, which is nice as well. Pronunciation. Those stressed ones are normally longer, louder, maybe higher as well. Isolating and exaggerating will help students hear it. And focusing on useful chunks of language, oops, my spelling mistake there, will help as well. Not just individual words, lots of modeling, lots of repetition from students, lots of practice. So matching words and phrases to stress patterns. This can be useful. We'll have a look at that in a moment. And also feedback when they're doing speaking activities. Let's not just correct their grammar. Let's give them some feedback on the stress and their pronunciation as well. So let's have a go at one of these matching activities, and we'll use some of these techniques. We can clap, we can beat. If you've got an elastic band, you could use that. Now I'm going to do one together here, and I've represented the stress patterns here with these bubbles. Let's do this one, because it is, for some people, this stress is very hard to do because it's difficult to hear. So let's give them some help with these visuals. So, listen, it's hard to do. It's hard to do. Get my elastic band again. It's hard to do. Right, what number do we think that one is?
Number 1.
Okay, listen.
It's hard to do.
Yeah, this one?
4.
4 syllable. This one? It's hard to do. Great. Right, well done, everybody. Right, if you'd like to mute yourselves now, I'm going to give you a minute just to look at the other ones. See if you can hum the stress pattern or clap the stress pattern to work out the matching activity. Okay, so if everybody would like to mute themselves, we'll give you 1 minute just to have a go at that.
It's hard to do.
Good. Now have a look at these other ones and see if you can match them to the other stress patterns.
Don't stress them. Don't stress them. You stress them.
Who can we hear there? Natalia, I think we can hear you there.
I'm sorry.
Great. No, it's great. Natalia, you volunteered for the feedback.
Thank you.
Right. So let's have a go. Natalia, which one, you were saying this one. Which number do you think that one is?
Don't stress them.
Yeah. Which one?
Number 3, maybe.
Don't stress them.
Number 2.
Good. Don't stress them. Don't stress them.
Don't stress them.
Good. So sometimes we can help students with patterns as well. Normally, little grammar words are not stressed. The stressed words are the information words that carry that important meaning. But if it's negative, then that's really important because it completely changes the meaning if something is negative. So we often stress these negative words as well. So don't stress them. If there's a little grammar word, don't stress them. Right. What about this one then? Does anybody have this one?
Number 1.
Good. You stress them. So if it's the important information words, you stress them. Good. If it's the little grammar words, don't stress them. Right. Do we have another volunteer for one of the other ones? Natalia, would you like to do one?
Number 3.
Number 3, which one?
Number 3. Mark the stress.
Excellent. Mark the stress. Great. So we've got verbs, we've got nouns, we haven't got articles, none of the little grammar words. Good. And which one is number 5?
Can't you hear it?
No. What do you think?
Ooh, okay.
Can't you hear it?
Right, let's see if this works. Right. Da 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 da. What do you think? What do you think? Da 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 da. And let's try the other one with the negative auxiliary here. Can't you hear it?
Can't you hear it?
Can't you hear it?
Can't you hear it?
Yeah, good. Excellent. So something like this is going to really help some students. Some students will have an ear for this and be naturally very good, but some students won't. And we need to help them hear it before we can expect them to produce it. Also remember the unstress as well. So it's not what do you think, because it takes too long to say that. We need to make these unstressed. What do you what do you think? And that helps us squeeze in the little unstressed syllables between the stressed ones. Good. Now, on our actual teacher refresher course, we have small groups. It's probably only between 5 and 10 of you guys, maybe a small group of 6 or something. and we've got lots of time to play with these activities in small groups, in breakout rooms. We're not able to do that today because we've got lots of people. But on the actual course, you're going to be doing lots of this and playing with lots of these things. And also, you know, activities for your students. For example, dominoes and things like that. There's some really nice stress dominoes from some resources like pronunciation games. And on the actual course, we've got a bit more time to play with these activities that you can use for your students. So I wanted to move on to some education technology, some new ideas that we've got to help students with. And this is one of them. Now, I've been playing with this a lot recently, and I really like it. I'm a bit of a tech geek, but so let's help again. How would we say this word?
Pronunciation.
Right, good. Pronunciation. Da, 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 da. Good. Right, now I want you to listen to this and say which one you think is the better pronunciation.
Pronunciation. Pronunciation.
And this one?
Pronunciation.
A is
Pronunciation.
better.
Right, good. A is better. Good.
Yes, A is better.
So we're going to have a look at this app. This is one that I've used, but we've shown you some other ones. I'll show you them again in a moment that are free. And I think it's fascinating because they produce these little sound waves of what you're saying. So you can compare it with other people. You can compare it to the teacher. You can compare it to the stress pattern. And you can help, you know, try again, record again until you get it perfect. Now, listen, which one is this? Do you think this is the wave pattern 1 or wave pattern 2? Just listen again to A.
Pronunciation. Pronunciation.
Which one do you think that one is?
Number 2.
Ah, good. So these, I'm going to change the order. So let's see if that fits better. Let's listen to B.
Pronunciation.
Pronunciation. So I'm not using word stress there. I sound like a robot. Pronunciation. Yeah. But this one.
Pronunciation.
Pronunciation. And you can actually see the volume. You can see the stress part and the unstressed part.
Yes.
And you can actually match it to these bubbles. It's a sort of a connection to the real world, to the science of how we are actually producing this sound. So I've had fun playing with these with students. Let's do another example. This was one of our students, you know, was terrible at word stress. One of our teachers actually was terrible at word stress. So let's have a look. Which one do you think is the better pattern here? Let's listen to C.
In my village.
In my village.
Listen to that again.
In my village.
Let's listen to D.
In my village.
Village.
In my village.
C.
Which do you prefer?
C the best.
In my
C.
Number 3.
And number 3, yeah, good. Okay, so let's listen to C again and just follow this pattern.
In my village.
In my village. You can see the difference between the unstress and the stress.
Village.
In my village. Good.
Village.
And let's do one more. Good old English food there.
Yes.
Right, let's listen.
Fish and chips.
Fish
And
and
this one?
chips.
Fish and chips.
Fish and
Fish and
chips.
chips. No,
Fish and
fish and chips. Number 5 is better.
Yeah, good, yeah. Good. So you can see when I'm not using good stress, fish and chips, I'm not using unstress. I'm not doing the longer, louder, higher syllables to show the stress. And actually, it really impedes communication. If somebody doesn't use good word and sentence stress, it makes it difficult to understand them when you're speaking. So things like this.
Fish and chips.
Fish and chips. You see the difference between the stress and the unstress.
Yes.
Some first languages don't do this very well, like French. It's a different type of language. So we've got to get students using their lungs, using the air, making things louder and longer and higher.
Yes. It's important.
So one suggestion that I've used before would be something like this. We get students from the word or the phrase to predict what the sound waves are going to look like. We could show them this and get them to say, oh, it's going to look like this. We could also take screenshots. It's very easy. These are all free apps on phones. It's very easy to take a screenshot and share it with people with an email address or a Google Drive or something. So you can actually get students to record themselves, make it as good as possible, and then send it to you. They can share audio files and screenshots. They can compare theirs with your good model. They can compare it with each other. They can go back and compare it with the stress. They could also, we could print out some of these when we're back in the physical classroom. Maybe we make a poster, you know, with dictionary, with words, but as well as the words, maybe the meaning, but also maybe the pronunciation. We could put some of these on, and that might be a really cool thing for the students. I'm going to show you one more app that does this really well. And I want, these are the free ones. These are ones that you can use for iOS, for Android and iOS. And we're going to look at this one now. Yes, sorry, Play Store for Android, iOS ones, and this one. I want to have a look at this one now. The free version is very limited and it's quite expensive, but I just wanted to show you what it does because it's quite cool, I think. And I'm going to come here. I'm just going to show you a little video of, this is my phone. So this is my cat on my phone. So I'm just going to play this for you. Thanks.
Nice and cute.
So I've gone to the Say It app and it's got very limited ones, but here I'm going to choose a word. So I choose available. And then in a moment, you'll be able to hear what they do.
Available. Available.
So that's on there already. I record me saying it.
Available. Available.
And then,
Available.
And then I can compare the two.
Available. Available. Available.
Available.
So it's quite cool, I think. Let's do that. It's only got a limited number of words on there, but the paid version, you've got to subscribe. It's a little bit expensive, but it's just very nice. But you can do it with the free apps like this when you're using things like this. So that's something that we'd like to play with, I think. It's also good for our pronunciation. You know, if you've got English as a second language, sometimes some people aren't so confident with the pronunciation. So it's a nice way to check and practice your own pronunciation as well. By the way, I think, you know, your model of pronunciation is excellent for your students. It's an inspirational model. It's better for your students than my pronunciation is. So I think you should all be very, very confident in doing pronunciation work with your own accent, with your own English. Right, so that was the Say It app, which is quite cool. I wanted to go on to something now with pronunciation, but not always for production. Sometimes it's for reception. And doing some pronunciation work will help students listening and understanding as well. So I thought we'd have a look at something from just a couple of years ago, actually, by Richard Caldwell. And this is some jungle listening. And it's about using pronunciation for a little bit for production, for speaking, but also to help with the real world, help listen to people actually use these. Good. Right, good. So I'm just going to... Good. Let's have a look at this. Right, now, based on what we know about stress, which of these words do we think is going to be stressed? Change.
Have.
Okay, could be.
Have you got any change?
Maybe. Could be. Could be.
Have you got any change?
Maybe. Yeah. Now, the thing about stress and pronunciation is it's often not black and white or right and wrong. It often depends on the choice of the speaker to show people what words are important in the context.
Yes.
What about this one?
No, sorry. No.
No, sorry. No. So no is important, but sorry is also important.
No, sorry.
Okay. Right, let's have a listen. See if you can identify which of these are the stressed words. Okay.
Have you got any change?
No, sorry.
Well, I'll pay with a £50 note then.
No, I've got a £10 note.
No.
Let me pay.
Let me pay. Let me pay.
Let me pay. Yeah, good. So me
Yes,
becomes very important in the context because it contrasts with you paying. No, you won't pay, let me pay.
Let me.
So that becomes more important, more meaningful in the context, so we stress it more. Right, good. Right, let's show you this then. It's something like this. So listen again, see if you can notice the stressed syllables. Okay.
Have you got any change?
No, sorry.
I'll have to pay with a £50 note then.
No, I've got a £10 note. Let me pay.
Let me
So
pay.
can you hear that?
I've got £10 note. Let me pay.
So this becomes important in the context. So pronunciation work and stress is very useful for communication because it shows which words are meaningful and important in this communication, in this context.
Yes.
Right, I just want you to listen to this first part again. Just listen to that first bit.
Have you got any change?
Right, what did he say?
Change. Have you got any change?
Right, listen carefully. He's doing something strange. Listen.
No, sorry.
Oh, let's listen again.
Sorry.
Have you got any change?
No.
Have you got any change?
Right, now something strange is going on there. Now, Richard Caldwell here and Jungle Listening, this is about preparing students for how real people really use the language in the real world. Now, he's got an idea that in English, sometimes in course books and in lessons, sometimes we present the language in a nice, safe, easy, clear way. And it's a bit like a greenhouse. Okay. Actually, the real world isn't like a greenhouse. It's not nicely ordered. Actually, the real world, maybe it's a bit more like a garden. Well, actually, the real world is a lot more like a jungle. It's all wild and crazy and all sorts of things happening. Now, if you just listen to this first one.
Have you got any?
Right, is that what anybody says? Is that what people really say?
Have you got any?
Has anybody ever spoken like that ever?
No.
Right, no, never. Right. So that's the greenhouse one. That's not what we say, but sometimes that's what students think we say, but that's not what we say. Right, let's have a look at the one that's a little bit more realistic. Let's listen.
Have you got any?
Have you got any?
So it's a bit more like this. Have you got any? Have you got any? Have you got any?
Have you got any?
Right, now let's listen to the real one, the jungle one. And this is the one that we heard before. This is actually what he said.
Yes.
This one.
Have you got any?
Have you got any? Have you got
Have you got any? Have you got
Have
any?
you got any? Have you got
They've
any?
squashed it all up together because it's not stressed.
Yes.
Those unstressed syllables have been squeezed together. Have you got any? Have you got any? Have you got any? Now, maybe we don't want students to say this. Maybe we do, but maybe we don't. But it will help their receptive understanding. It will help their listening if they anticipate, if they're prepared for people actually using the language in a real way like this.
Yes.
Let's have a go. Let's just repeat after this lady. I'll stop it after each one. Okay.
Have you got any?
Right, let's try that, everybody. Have you got any? Right. Next one, the garden one.
Have you got any?
Have you got any? So a bit better. We've got a bit of stress there. Now let's go to the jungle.
Have you got any?
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 Good. Now, this is all Richard Caldwell's idea of jungle listening. If you just do a search for that, you'll get loads of free materials and audio files and everything. But one of the things they like to do is get students to play with the language, use their mouths and their vocal apparatus to play with this, have a bit of fun. And one thing they call this is vocal gymnastics.
Yes. Have you got
So
any?
vocal gymnastics is a little sort of rhyme thing where people try to fit in the words on the same beat of the rhythms. So if we just listen to the first one here.
Have you got any change?
Right, let's just try that. Have you got any change? Right, now at the same time, somebody's going to say that. At the same time, we've got to try and say this. We've got to try and fit it into the same time frame. So, have you got any change?
Have you got
Right,
any?
let's listen to them.
Have you got any change?
Right, let's try that. Everybody, ready? Have you got any change? Right, good. Right, now this time we're going to try to squeeze it all up on the beat. So you've got to speak quickly here to get this in time. Okay, let's listen to them. So have you got any change? Right, good, very good. That's very good. Let's listen to them and then we'll try it afterwards.
Have you got any change?
Good.
Have.
Right, let's try it. Have you got any change? Very good. Right, now this is useful for students just to get their ideas out there, you know, to show them that it's not, we don't speak like this first line. That's not how we speak.
It's true.
Actually, we often speak like the third line here. And so to prepare students with that would be very useful. Right, I'd like to go back to this one. I'd like everybody to mute yourself and just have a go at this dialogue, but I'd like you to read it quickly and try to squash up those unstressed syllables together. Okay, we'll just listen one last time to them and then we'll get you to do it.
Have you got any change?
No, sorry.
I'll have to pay with a £50 note then.
No, I've got a £10 note. Let me pay.
Right. Would everyone like to mute yourself and then we'll give you 1 minute just to have a go at this. Use your mouth.
Have you got any change? No, sorry. I'll have to pay with a £50 note then. No, I've got a £10 note. Let me pay.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Change? No, sorry. To pay with a £50 note then. No, I've got a £10 note to be paid.
Good. So this thing about his jungle listening is quite interesting, but they're just using very short texts because they're going into it in a little bit more detail. So one thing that I'd like to show you now is something you can do with any students. You don't need lots of technology. You don't need lots of preparation time as well. It's a useful pronunciation activity. I find that when students read aloud, it's very difficult to understand them. And sometimes other students, they switch off because they can't understand them. And I think it's a useful skill, particularly if you're doing, like if you were reading the news or if you were reading a speech, something aloud. It's very useful to use some text to practice reading aloud and focus on these specific bits of pronunciation like stress. So this is something that we can do, and we'll just do it quickly. We've only got a few minutes. Now, I've chosen a short text from One Stop English teaching website, and it's something about his feelings about teaching pronunciation. So I'm just going to read it to you first time, okay? And he says, pronunciation is one area of teaching which is often neglected. I notice that when talking to teachers, there are a few who say they try and do some pronunciation in most lessons. The majority, however, either do very little or none at all. Why is this? Right, now, one thing we can do with students is give them this text, let them listen to us, and we want them to divide it into meaningful units. Sometimes these are called speech units or intonation units. It doesn't have to be a sentence. It can be long, it can be short, it depends on the speaker. We group these ideas together into a unit. So one thing I would do is then read it again or record it and play it to the students and get them to mark on these speech units. Maybe I take a little pause before I move on, and that helps people listening to understand it. It's very useful for pronunciation. So let's try that. Let's see where the first speech unit ends. Pronunciation is one area of teaching which is often neglected. Right, where was the first pause then? Pronunciation is one area of teaching. Ah, good, yeah, after teaching, good. So one thing we might do is get students to mark on where these speech units are. It's not black and white, it's not a sentence, it depends on how we think about the meanings of these chunks. Right, next thing I get students to do, I'm going to read it again, and this time I want them to mark on the main stress. Okay, So we'll just do the first part. Tell me where the main stress is in this. Pronunciation is one area of teaching which is often neglected. I noticed that when I talk to teachers, there are a few who say they try and do some pronunciation in most lessons. The majority, however, either do very little or none at all. Why is this?
Why is this?
Right, now remember, we're trying to get students to hear this before we expect them to produce it. They probably get something like this. Pronunciation is one area of teaching which is often neglected. I notice that when I talk to teachers, there are a few who say they try and do some pronunciation in most lessons. The majority, however, either do very little or none at all. Why is this?
Why is this?
So we could do this and get students to listen and mark on, work together to compare it, and then look at your version. We could also add other bits of pronunciation. We could do the same. Maybe we get them to mark on the schwa. No, it's not of, it's of. It's not to, it's to. So we could maybe show them the unstress by getting them to mark on the schwa. Maybe we also could add other things like intonation arrows or connected speech things. Right. So what we could then do, remember we've got this text. Maybe it's a text from the course book, or maybe it's something you found that's interesting for the students. We could get students then to practice reading this aloud with our pronunciation features, then get students to read it to the class. But the important bit would be the next part, to get the students to either write or find a text for themselves, and then get the students to do this on their texts. So something very concrete and simple. They mark on where they think the meaning of the unit ends before they move on to the next one. They mark on the words that they think are particularly important to stress. Maybe they mark on the unstress as well. And we can see the important words, because if we only say those words, we still understand the meaning, really. Pronunciation, one, neglected. Notice teachers, few try pronunciation, most lessons. Majority, however, little, none at all, is. We kind of get the meaning just from those stressed ones. So then get the students to do this on their own texts. Get the students to practice reading it with each other, then get the students to do it for the class. If you want, maybe we give the students listening, maybe we give them a listening task to keep them focused as well. This doesn't require much preparation at all. You can use a text from a course book, you could use an authentic text that appeals to your students as well. So a suggested procedure for that would be select a text, mark on the features that you'll focus on, give the students an unmarked text, read it, record it, they can mark on the speech units, read it again, they can mark on the stress, read it again, they mark on the unstress, read it again, maybe intonation arrows, connected speech. After that, the students compare and then do feedback together. Then they practice reading your text aloud. But then they find or they write their own texts and mark on the pronunciation features on their own texts before practicing it and then doing it with the class. It could be really interesting. That could be really motivating, depending on what the texts are. But it's going to force students to think about the pronunciation before they try to read it aloud. And even just those pauses where the speech units are, even that makes it much more intelligible. It makes it much easier for the other students to understand. Right, good. So we're going to leave that there for today. That's just a little flavor, a little taste of some of the things that we do on the online teacher refresher courses. We try to have a mix of things that could be online, but also things for the classroom. We're trying to use some traditional things, lots of materials for your students, loads of ideas, sharing ideas and experiences as well with teachers from other countries. And so far, it's been a really positive experience. And it's been really nice to get together with teachers from other countries as well. It's been brilliant. So I'll just show you a little bit about our online teacher refresher course, and then we'll take any questions that people have got. The teacher refresher course is delivered by our English language teaching experts. They're all tutors. They're all recognised by Cambridge Experience. They've all got decades of experience. You'll get a certificate at the end of the course, but you'll get all the materials and lots of ideas and lots of practical links to online resources and lots of different things. Each of the modules, there's one session a day. It's more or less 45 minutes, sometimes a little bit longer, but you get lots of ideas and links and things to play with afterwards. And there's one of those sessions a day for 5 days. And that's one of the modules. I'll show you how it's organized in a moment. Usually it's quite a small group, so we get lots of time to play together, and we put you in breakout rooms to do activities with partners as well. Everything's on Zoom. You don't need anything else. These are some of the modules that we do. As you can probably tell, this first one is pronunciation. This one, heavy traffic. Any ideas? Heavy traffic, that's vocabulary. We've also got teaching grammar. This is a very useful one as well. It's a toolkit of ideas that don't take preparation for when you're very busy and you need to help your students but don't have a lot of time to prepare. Also things for skills, productive skills, receptive skills, materials, resources, education technology things. This is a useful one sometimes for your English. It's high-level advanced grammar. This one's about modality and conditionals in the English language. And we've also got a younger learner course, and that's designed specifically for people teaching younger learners. So we've got all these modules. It's quite a flexible timetable. For example, this is, let's say, week 1, week 2, week 3, and we've got maybe 4 modules for that week, starting at different times. So if I wanted to, for example, I could do vocabulary and grammar in that week. The next week I could do toolkit and materials, and I could complete all 8 modules if I wanted to in 4 weeks. Or I could possibly do, let's just clear that. I could possibly do 4 one week, 4 the next week, finish it in 2 weeks. Or I could just do 1. You know, you could just, if you want, only do 1 module. You do 2 modules, 3 modules, whatever, whichever ones you think are interesting. Just a little bit of feedback. I won't bore you with a lot of this, but we give everybody a survey at the end of the courses. And so far, you know, it's been fantastic. This was some feedback for the grammar module, you know, really great ideas. This is very common. The pronunciation module, this is Riku, he's great, from Japan. Practical skills to use in lessons immediately. That's a key point, you know, it's not just academic theory, it's practical application. The toolkit, the Busy Teachers Toolkit, yeah, really useful content to use straight away. And of all the courses, all the modules we've done over the last year, we've had 100%, you know, positive feedback based on anonymous surveys that we give people at the end of the course. So that's it from me, really. That is our online teacher refresher course. We'd love to see you on it. Thank you very much for your participation today and for your attendance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank
It
you
was very
very
useful,
much,
really.